In this edition of Saints Now by Chat Sports, we're going to be discussing whether or not the New Orleans Saints could look to trade back in the NFL draft. They're currently slotted to pick at number 14, but they don't have a selection in the third or fourth round. And then on top of that, we're going to be discussing Taliese Fuaga and going into a deep dive and whether or not he would be a good fit for the New Orleans Saints. A lot of really interesting to discuss today, but let's start off with trading back. Now, there is some chatter around the league and on the interwebs and all over, the rumor mill, if you will, that the Buffalo Bills could look to actually trade up in the 2024 NFL Draft. They're currently slotted at number 28 overall. And if you were living under a rock or in case you missed it, they did trade away Stefon Diggs to the Houston Texans. Now, in terms of some draft compensation for the New Orleans Saints, here are the 2024 draft picks that the Saints currently have to use. Round 1, pick 14. Round 2, pick 45. And then you got to wait a really, really long time, over 100 selections in the 5th. Got a couple comp picks, a third comp pick in the 5th round. You got 2 6th-round selections, and then 1 in the 7th. And I do think that the New Orleans Saints could be aggressive in either trading up with some of those comp picks or maybe even trading back if some of those players that they like aren't available at number 14. But just a general, consensus and a general idea that I have, you cannot wait over 100 picks to make another selection. Like, that is just astronomically bad idea, and a terrible idea. Like, I just can't even imagine a world where any team waits over 100 picks to make a draft selection. Like, that is terrible business plan. You got to get a pick in the 3rd or in the 4th round or an extra second or something, because there's a lot of talent in the 3rd and 4th rounds, and you only have 2 picks inside the top 100. For me, I personally value top 100 picks a lot. So I would like to see the Saints at least get one more selection in the 3rd or 4th round, or heck, go even get an extra 2nd round pick. That would be awesome too. But what would you do, New Orleans Saints fans? This show isn't about me. It's about you at home. Would you rather stay at 14, just type S? If you'd rather trade up in the 1st round, try and get, a few picks earlier, the top 10 or something, just give me an up. Or if you'd rather trade down, trade into the later 1st round, get a couple extra picks, just give me a down in the comment section. So for me, I'd either stay put or trade back. Like, I'm not interested in moving up and giving up draft assets and players and future capital to try and get a player in the top 10 this year. I would rather just take my pick at 14 or get some extra draft capital for this year. Like, if I could come up with a trade idea, this is what I would do. For the Buffalo Bills, I would send the New Orleans Saints 14 overall pick. That's the 1st round selection. So the Bills can jump up, go get a prime wide receiver. They can be happy. But I'm also going to send them a 5th round selection, because right here, you're getting their 2nd round pick. So you're picking at number 28, number 45, and number 60 overall. And on top of that, just to make it a little bit sweeter, I did send one of the 4th round pick, or a 4th round pick for next year's draft. Could have also convinced me to send an extra comp pick, but just to try and make it a little bit more appealing. I don't think that this is too unfair of a trade idea, but what would you do, Saints fans? Would you say yes or no to this trade? Just give me a trade if you would make it happen, or a pass if you're hanging up the phone and you're saying, get out of here, Buffalo. I'm taking my selection at number 14 overall. So let's chop it up, Saints fans. I want to take a deep dive and take a really strong look at Taliese Fuaga as a potential draft target for New Orleans, because I do think that the Saints are going to take an offensive lineman in round 1. And I think Taliese Fuaga is a really interesting selection and could be a really good fit for New Orleans. But before we get into that, got to give a special shout out to Game Time for sponsoring today's video. I absolutely love the Game Time app, and my girlfriend and I have been able to make so many memories. But I can tell you what, when the guys and I at the Chat Sports Studios are like, last second, let's go catch a Stars game, let's go catch a Mavs game, we are all over the Game Time app, and it is so great because we saved $20 the first time we bought tickets by using the code CHATSPORTS. You see it at the bottom of your screen. If you download the Game Time app, you create an account, and you use promo code CHATSPORTS, you can get $20 off your first purchase. For those of you out in the boot, you can go get tickets to LSU like I mentioned, or you can go ahead and get some seats for the New Orleans Saints 2024 campaign. But if you want to stay focused on the hardwood, go get tickets for the New Orleans Pelicans because they are red hot right now, and I think that they could have a chance to make a run in the playoffs. But on top of that, Prize Picks has zone deals, they have flash deals, and you can see your view from your seats just by holding up your phone and you move it around. It's actually so cool and it's so user-friendly. That way you know, hey, is there a scoreboard in the way? Is there going to be a rowdy fan with a sign? Is there a pillar because of whatever in the stadium construction? Point being, you got to go use the Game Time app. It is amazing, and I cannot recommend it enough. It is my favorite ticketing app. So download the app, use promo code CHATSPORTS, that's CHATSPORTS, right here on the screen. Download the Game Time app. Terms do apply. You $20 off. Shout out to Game Time for sponsoring the show. All right, let's get back on track with the offensive line. Now, there is no mystery that the offensive line is the weakest part of this Saints roster right now, and they do need to bring in some help desperately. Trevor Penning is at risk of becoming a bust. So far, it's not looking too good. Ryan Ramczyk virtually has no cartilage left in his knee. You might need a right tackle as well. And Taliese Fuaga is more of a right tackle. But on top of that, the interior offensive line struggled too. So why I like Taliese Fuaga so much is because he can be an offensive tackle and an offensive guard kind of flex. Like, you might be able to play him in both sides or in both aspects on the outside and interior. And he's pretty big at 6'5", 324 pounds. Got nice arm length, got decent sized hands, I would say. And on top of that, he played all of his snaps at Oregon State for the Beavers at right tackle, and he didn't get beat much, which is really, really good news. And he tested really well at the combine. But worth noting, the Oregon State Beavers offense, they didn't air it out all that much. They were a lot more run happy. So that can be a partial reason as to why there wasn't a lot of pressure coming from Taliese Fuaga's side. But when he had pressure, he was taking care of business. Now, the coaching intel on the Oregon State offensive tackle, he's so physical and very explosive. He's a freaking powerhouse. He really moves people in the run game, and he's not super long, but he has quick feet and good awareness and balance. I thought he improved a lot last year, especially as a pass blocker. He's really good. He's a tough dude. I think he's been really, really well coached, and I love their offensive line. He's one of the best in the country. Now, let's go through some pros and cons. I like to do this for every single one of our draft prospects that we have or draft targets that we discuss here on the channel. Obviously, never allowed a sack in college. We mentioned that a little bit ago. The dude can play, and he's reliable, and he's really talented. The hand placement and the balance can be better, like in terms of he can pop his opposing pass rusher. You can pop him and stuff, but he has a hard time latching on and holding on and finishing the block. But he does have solid quickness for his size, and he tested really well at the combine. And you can see that by his RAS score, which we'll show you guys here in just a moment. But he is in kind of a con, kind of a pro. Depends on how you look at it. He is aggressive, which is a good thing. But it can be dialed back. That can, lead to some penalties. It can lead to some issues and lead to, problems for your offense at the end of the day. But let's take a look at the combine results for the Beaver. 40-yard dash was pretty impressive. The 10-yard split was really good. The vertical jump and the broad jump for Taliese Fuaga, 32 inches and then 9 foot 3 inches. Those are both pretty solid for Fuaga. And here is the relative athletic score. He had a 9.61, so he fits the Saints bill at the athletic offensive tackle that they like to go and get. That's half the reason they fell in love with Trevor Penning. But the vertical, you can see, was really good. The broad jump was pretty solid. The 40-yard dash, awesome. The 10-yard split, extremely explosive. The weight is nice. The height and the length could be a little bit better, but he did test well. That 9.61 is something that the Saints are going to value. And on top of that, here's the PFF numbers for the production. He had 0 sacks allowed, 2 hits, 10 hurries, and he had 8 total penalties, but he had an overall grade of 88.2. And on top of that, he had a 90 overall run blocking grade, and he's a really good run blocker. Like, that's just exactly what he is, and I think the Saints definitely need to improve their rushing offense, and Taliese Fuaga could help you do that. Now, I encourage you to subscribe for more Saints draft analysis. We do a lot of draft coverage and free agency and trades and all that, but I like to take a look at it from the lens of a Saints fan and for the New Orleans Saints. So if you want more coverage that's not just draft specific, but Saints specific, I encourage you to subscribe today. So just to kind of round things out, Taliese Fuaga is a popular pick amongst a lot of mock drafts for the New Orleans Saints. I mean, a lot of draft experts, a lot of fans, they're all taking Taliese Fuaga, but there's a handful of really good offensive linemen that I think the Saints should go and get. And my number one offensive lineman for this year's draft is Joe Alt. I would love for the Saints to land Joe Alt. I think you can plug him in right now, and he can play, and he can be a bona fide franchise offensive tackle for a really, really long time. I would also say the same thing about Olu Fashanu. It's 1A and like 1B for Olu Fashanu and Joe Alt. They're really, really close for me. I love the prospect in Fashanu. He's really, really smart, has good size, and on top of that, he's really polished. In the Big Ten, they just put out offensive linemen that are really good in the NFL. Taliese Fuaga, we just went on a deep dive with him. I think he'd be a good fit, especially on the right side and especially helping in the run game. Troy Fontenot is who I had. He is a little bit more of an interior guy, and you could maybe bump him out to the offensive tackle, but the interior offensive line struggled a lot for the Saints, so I think that this would be a really, really good fit. And J.C. Latham is my number 5 just because I picked 5, and I'm going to be honest, it was between him and Amarius Mims, and I only picked J.C. Latham on there because Taliese Fuaga is a right tackle just like Amarius Mims, so J.C. Latham, left tackle. Saints need a left tackle as well. I'm not that high on Latham, to be honest. I would prefer to avoid that pick, but if you can go get Alt, Fashanu, or Fuaga, those are stellar picks for the Saints. Now, which O-lineman do you want the Saints to draft? For me, I'm going Olu Fashanu. I just don't think Joe Alt will be available at number 14 overall, but I can tell you what, I do think that Olu Fashanu will be there. So get in the comment section and let me know what you think down below. And I do encourage you to give me a follow on social media at Trace Girouard 48. The links to both of those accounts for Twitter and for Instagram are in the comment section description of this video. I put a lot of coverage, a lot of fun content, interactive stuff, and I also do Twitter spaces. So if you want to interact with me, we can talk in real time. Give me a follow on social media. And don't forget to subscribe here at Dat Nation. Hope you guys have a wonderful weekend. We'll see you next time. Y'all stay golden.